Welcome to another episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders, owner of NTX Vinyl, which is a small independent chain of record stores in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you haven't already followed on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you might be watching this, please do so. Really appreciate it. You can also check out ntxvinyl.com, shop with us online for new and pre-order records. But today we're going to talk about my top 10 vinyl finds of 2021. So this is a short list of just a handful of my favorite records that I have discovered this year that I actually found in the wild while out digging for records through larger collections. So none of these I bought online. I didn't go into a record store and buy them. Yes, I still shop in record stores. So this is stuff that I literally found digging through collections that I purchased, mostly for NTX Vinyl, right? And so, these are ones that came in larger collections that I needed for my collection, so they didn't make it into the store, which I think is understandable, right? Which any record store owner would probably do. I'm totally guilty of it. There's definitely a real struggle when you go buy a larger collection and there's great albums. You have to kind of strike a balance of what you want to keep versus what you want to pass on to your customers, and so I'm constantly battling that, as I know most record store owners probably are, if they're collectors as well. So again, these are all albums that I got this year through larger collections, through acquiring those. None of them I previously owned, at least not these versions, and they're all really important to me, and just some of my coolest albums. Honestly, I have just some amazing scores this year. So I'm going to go through there in no particular order. But there are some pretty unique stuff in here, some pretty unique albums that I'm excited about. So the first one we'll talk about, this is an album, or an EP I should say, that's incredibly important. This is Mother Love Bone's Shine EP. This came out in 1989, I believe. This is I think a 8-track EP. Side A, side B. No, sorry, just a 4-track EP. Most importantly, featuring Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns, one of the most iconic Mother Love Bone songs. This is a record that is so special to me because it really indicates the beginnings of so many things. Not only was it the beginning of Mother Love Bone, but obviously that was short-lived because of the death of Andy Wood, and that birthed the beginning of Pearl Jam. Or if you've ever watched any of my videos or know anything about me, I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. And so when I discovered this in just pristine condition, I was absolutely floored. I couldn't believe I would find this out in the wild. I didn't own it previously, so it was something I needed for my collection. And being a huge fan of the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s scene from the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, this is just an absolute no-brainer that this one was going to land in my collection. Pretty valuable album, pretty hard to find. It's never been reissued, which is, they've reissued it in other formats, and even those aren't easy to find, meaning they've combined it with other, the full-length records and things like that. But you can't find this one on its own anymore unless you go back and find this copy from 1989, I think it is. So just a really special record for me, a really special find. And as I thought, this was one of the ones where, as I was thinking about this list before I even started looking through my records, it was one of the ones I knew would be on this list for sure. So this was a great day, as you would expect when you come across a record like this and you get to add it to your collection. So Shine by Mother Love Bone, that's one of my big finds from the past year, which I was really excited about and still am. All right, next on the list. This is a cool record. I think I've probably featured this in videos before. I'm not sure. This is Belladonna by Stevie Nicks. And the reason why I've got this on the list is because it is an original master recording from Mobile Fidelity, which I'm sporting this t-shirt of by coincidence. But the reason why this is on there is because I don't think I've come across more than a handful of MoFi recordings out in the wild that I've acquired. And that's really, I think, due to the fact that a lot of people who purchase MoFi, Mobile Fidelity releases are kind of audiophile collectors, high-end records, and they've held on to that stuff, and they're probably not getting rid of it, So I haven't come across a lot of these in the wild, a lot of MoFi recordings, much less this Stevie Nicks record, which is a pretty rare record. I think this version came out, I don't have the year on it. I want to say it was late 80s, 81, I think. The original. I'm not sure if that's when the MoFi came out, but just an incredible record. This is one that she partnered with Tom Petty on and Jimmy Iovine. So just kicking your heart around. Stop Dragging My Heart Around was the big single off of this one, but a lot of other great songs, and just a really special one to me because A, I love Stevie Nicks, B, I love MoFi records, and just to discover one out in the wild, like I said, for me, just doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen a lot in general, I think, and so super excited when I came across this one. This was earlier in the year, if I remember correctly. It was a smaller collection that I got of maybe 100 records or something, and this was one that was in there. So very excited that I came across this, and hopefully come across more MoFi albums in the future. All right, so that's the second on my top 10 vinyl finds of 2021. The third is Ride the Lightning by Metallica. So I'm actually not a huge Metallica fan. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate Metallica. It's just not a band that is, if I'm going to name my top 20, 30 rock bands, Metallica is probably not going to make that list, right? For some people, they're number one, and I get it, believe me. I do appreciate them. I do love a lot of their records. It's just not, they're just not the pinnacle for me. But when you come across an original pressing of Ride the Lightning, and you open it up and you realize that it's a white label promo on Megaforce, you get pretty damn excited. And then you realize that not only was that included, but there's also a promotional 12-inch single for Whom the Bell Tolls, also a white label promotional single. Just absolutely floored. It has the original sleeve as well, which I've got here. All of it just in pristine condition. So for me, this was it's just an iconic cover. It's an iconic album. And even though that I'm not a massive Metallica fan, hugely appreciate this record, especially this copy. And again, not one you run across every day when you're digging through record collections, I assure you, especially not in this condition, and especially not a white label promo. In fact, I've probably only had a couple copies of this, original copies, that I've come across over the years. I've never come across a white label promo. So this was an instant keeper when I saw that it was the promo copies. There are certain albums like this that I'm kind of waiting for the right version to keep, because I'll run through some and end up passing them along to other customers and fans of bigger fans of a certain band. But for me, when I come across a certain particular pressing like this, was a no-brainer to keep that one. So Ride the Lightning was really fun. Next on the list, this is an album that I've actually gotten into. I've, of course, heard the album, but have really rediscovered it and gotten into it in recent years. So the fact that I kind of ran across it in a collection was, again, super excited to find Danzig's first record, self-titled record produced by Rick Rubin on American Recordings, Def Jam. A gold stamp promo copy, virtually in perfect condition. This is the gatefold version with the original sleeve, other than that creasing on the sleeve there. This is just a beautiful copy. The record is pretty much near mint, and I got to tell you, it sounds fantastic. It's a shame that this album is not more widely reissued. You have to kind of get, I think the only versions out there these days are unofficial copies because they just have not reissued it. But what a record, man. This is, I think it's every bit as good as any of the stuff that came out in the late 80s from a rock perspective. Like, if I think about this, it came out around the same time as like Appetite for Destruction. Like, I'm trying to think of like pinnacle rock albums from this era. This is from 1988, so yeah, Appetite came out in 87, and then of course this had the big hit Mother on it, but man, Twist of Cain and She Rides, Am I Demon, like just amazing rock songs that have really, for me, aged really well. I think it sounds as great now as it did back then, and it's something I think that I've come to appreciate more with age as well. So, huge fan of this record. This was in a collection that I actually came across, and I passed the vast majority of the collection on in a big sale that I did at NTX Vinyl earlier in the year. And I want to say out of the maybe 3,000 albums that I bought, I kept about 25 or something like that. And there's a couple of them in here. That's one of them. The Muddle Love Bone Shine was also in that. The other one that was in that collection was this original pressing of Nine Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine. An iconic record. Also came out, I think this came out, what, 89 probably, if I had to guess. I don't have the year in front of me. This is on, you're not going to be able to see it, but this is on a translucent black vinyl, which is really cool. For me, not even my top 2 or 3 favorite Nine Inch Nails records. I'm a huge fan, so I would put The Fragile and Downward Spiral ahead of Pretty Hate Machine, honestly. But because it's their first record, because it's their breakthrough, you know, Head Like a Hole and Down in It, just absolutely iconic singles that, for me, were still my introduction to the band. And so when you run across an original pressing, you get pretty excited, especially when it's in great condition. It does have the kind of promo or discount bin corner cut there, but other than that, it's in phenomenal condition, and it sounds great. It's a great album, and one that I think really shines on vinyl. I think it can be a little crispy digital. So to grab a great original pressing of this record was super exciting. All right, moving on along. I've got a couple more to talk about for my top finds of 2021. Here's another from that era. Jane's Addiction, Ritual, De La Habitual. This is unique because it's the censored cover. So it's crazy to me that for whatever reason, I see the original cover more often than I see the censored one. In fact, I've got an original press of the with the actual cover, and then they censored it, and I just don't see, and I've never seen this one quite as much, which is really cool. They just did it on a completely plain white sleeve. Took the artwork off, which I think was a pretty cool move when the big box stores decided they were going to censor it, so they came out with this version. I remember having this CD of the censored version back in the day, so when I came across this vinyl version of it, that was really exciting. Also another kind of iconic record from the early 90s. Can't say enough about Jane's Addiction and their influence on the alternative rock scene. Perry Farrell, an absolute visionary and entrepreneur, going on to create Lollapalooza. Jane's is incredible. This is an incredible record. If you're not familiar, check it out and hunt down this kind of censored pressing, which is really cool, and again, also in really great shape. So definitely one of my my cooler finds from the year. All right, let's move. This is an interesting one. So Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, Live Alive. When I saw this album, I was like, cool, another Stevie Ray record, because this isn't necessarily a super rare or valuable record. It's a good recording. Honestly, there's other live recordings of Stevie Ray out there that I think are better. This has got a variety of his hits on it, which is cool. This came out in 1986, a double LP. But the reason why this is on my list is because I pulled this out originally probably to price it, if I had to guess, for my store. And it had something else in it, which was really cool. So I opened it up, and it was just like this. I kept it just like it was. And what was inside are some newspaper clippings from the Dallas Morning News. I'm in Dallas. And what they are is they're newspaper clippings from August 28th, Tuesday, August 28th, 1990, which is the day after Stevie Ray Vaughan passed away. So the person that I bought this from, this collection from, had clipped these out and put them inside the album. And nothing particularly valuable or anything here, just really cool, especially being from Dallas. So you can see the title there. This is the Today section, Morning a Blues Master. Stevie Ray Vaughan embodied Texas Roadhouse music for fans and players. So just the fact that this was included, it just stands out to me as something like a jaw-dropping moment as far as coolness factor. When I opened this, there's the front page, air crash kills guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan, 5 die in Wisconsin helicopter accident. So again, nothing that was included with the album originally, but I love finding treasures like this that are kind of buried inside particular albums, and this collector cut these out and stuck them inside this, just a normal copy of Live Alive. So that was really exciting. And so again, when I was thinking about albums that I got this year, this is one that immediately I thought of immediately because of those newspaper clippings that were included. So I'm going to keep them just like that inside this album as a part of my collection. So I'll remember that forever. So, all right, let's talk about, we only got a couple more. Another unique one. This is kind of an oddball one. This is a 1983 fan club package from the Rolling Stones, of course, from the Beggars Banquet Tour. Is that right? Beggar's Banquet fan club package. Maybe not from the Beggar Banquet tour. That wouldn't be from '83, but fan club package. So let's see. I'm not sure which tour this was on, but if you open this up, there is an amazing amount of memorabilia in here. I'm going to kind of show you some of it. The only vinyl that is included is this 7-inch single, which is a promotional single. I'm not even sure what's on it. I think it might be interviews. Let's see. Yeah. So these are 4 interviews. It's got the 4 band members interviews on this, which is cool. But then you've got an amazing set of memorabilia. You've got replica passports. So check this out. This is actually photocopies of the band members' passports, which is just super fun. You have got, so that goes in this little slipcase that actually looks like a passport, which is pretty cool. And then you've got, let me get that back in there. Let's see, you've got replica backstage passes, you've got some iron-on tattoos, you've got replica Hyde Park ticket from July 5th, 1969. You've got some additional handbills from other tours and shows. This is really cool. Welcome to the Rolling Stones fan club. So you've got the photocopy signed by Bill Wyman. You've got a letter from Brian Jones that they photocopied from 1963. And then you've got some kind of 8x10 kind of photos of the band. Obviously just photocopy signed, but really cool stuff, man. Just the fact that I get to discover this stuff is such a blessing. And then it's got this pin, and it's also got a huge fold-out poster, which I'm not going to fold out because it's got the pin attached to it. But just a super fun find, not something I have ever run across before. And honestly, probably never will again. But that's a really cool package to come across when you're digging for records, to come across something like that. So that definitely had to make the list as well. All right, so I've got 2 more on my 2021 vinyl finds. I think I'm going to go to this one next. This is What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Obviously a very iconic album. Not an easy one to find in great condition for me, honestly. I run across it very rarely in collections. And anytime I do, it's usually pretty beat up. So this was a pretty nice copy. So when I found it, I was excited for one, just because it was in good condition. But then when I opened it up and I discovered that this is a white label promo, I was over the moon. Just unbelievable to find a white label promo of such an iconic album. It says DJ copy, not for sale, right there on the record. I don't know if you can see it there, but it sounds fantastic, as a lot of white label promos do. I don't have a ton in my collection, but man, when I come across them, especially of an iconic album like this, it's definitely a keeper. So super exciting to find this. Again, so much of it was based on condition, because most of the time you find this, there's ring wear all over this record for whatever reason. And I think just because it got played so much, it was such a popular album at the time that it really got worn out on turntables. And so to find one in great condition, to find one that's a DJ copy in just near mint condition, was super exciting. So this was a no-brainer that it was staying home with me in my collection. So that's what's going on. Last on the list, without a doubt, my number 1 find in 2021 of a record that I've had on my list since it came out, because I missed it when it came out, and I wish I would have gotten it, and that is Beck's Midnight Vultures. Kind of a sleeper of an album if you're a casual Beck fan. I'm trying to look for the year this came out. I think it was 2001. Let's see. There's no year on it, but I bet it was. I'm sorry, 1999. So if you're kind of a casual Beck fan, you may not even know about this record. This was, I think, kind of his dance record, I guess, if you want to call it that. Harkens back to kind of a Prince vibe, if you will. It was at a time when alternative music was kind of going through some transitions in the late 90s, getting into the early 2000s. Beck was not necessarily a big mainstream artist anymore, and this album wasn't a big mainstream hit for him. The one single I think that got any airplay was "Sex Laws," which is not even near close to the best track on this record. But this is a super rare album. It was only pressed in 1999, and even then was marked as limited edition during the dark days of vinyl. Because I had it on CD, of course. Any Beck fan did it that day if you were a big fan in collecting his stuff. But grabbing the record just wasn't a priority. And it was probably hard to find in 1999 because it was limited edition even then. This has gone on to just skyrocket in value. It's never been repressed. And for me, being a huge fan of Beck, it has been a massive hole in my collection for many, many years. And so I'm forever grateful to the friend who I bought this from. I came across it in a collection and he passed it on to me. It was actually a sealed copy, which was just unbelievable. I have since opened it and played it. This was a keeper for me from the beginning. I had to have it when I saw it. I've actually never even come across one in a store or online that was a reasonable price. They're usually and they're usually only available overseas. You just don't see them that much in the U.S. And so just over the moon to discover it and add this one to my collection. An absolute iconic album for me of that late 90s period. And again, being such a big fan of Beck, this was really special. So that's definitely my #1 find of the year. Hard to put it above any of these others, but it is there last for that reason. So those are my top finds for 2021. Let me know what your top find was. I'd be real curious to hear if you've come across anything out there digging that was super exciting. Really appreciate you listening again, and hope you have a great new year, and look forward to many more videos in 2022. Thanks again for listening. My name is G.I. Sanders. This has been Talking About Records.